Hello and welcome to the Totally Hooked podcast. I'm Frank Howard, your host, and today we're going to be talking about how to have a productive day. Productivity is a really important thing for a lot of reasons, and it's important that as we develop rituals and become more productive people, we have certain habits that we've developed to make us more productive. What are some of the benefits of having a more productive day? You can get a lot more done than you ordinarily would, and you can live a more satisfying lifestyle. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's cue up the music. Here we go. Hey, this is Frank Howard of the Totally Hooked podcast, totallyhooked.net, where we're building a larger and larger audience as we go. And today we're going to talk about something really important. I think it's important for a lot of reasons, and it's also something that's really important that a lot of people are constantly asking about, and that is, how am I going to have a productive day? Well, that's a really important question, and it's something that a lot of people have thought about, and a lot of people have developed different ideas, and today that's what we're going to go with. For the most part, productivity starts first thing in the morning. When you wake up in the morning, that sort of sets the tone for how the rest of the day will go. And I think by getting small victories done at the very start of the day, one can be far more productive and far in a much better emotional state to get things accomplished, whether it be when you're at work to finally gotten everything that you needed to get handled before then, or if you're going to have if you've got anything going on, if you've got a project or if you've got something that you're working on, having a morning ritual, as has been said, is a very good way of having a good productive day. So what are some tips? What are some things that we can think about when having a more productive day? Well, number one for me, the first one I'd like to talk about is water. Having water first thing in the morning. There was an interesting article or interesting study that came out recently that talked about how drinking water first thing in the morning has so many benefits because, number one, we're really dehydrated in the mornings. Before we get started, you've been asleep for hopefully, ideally, 8 hours. And actually, let's digress there for a second. But before you even wake up, you want to make sure and you're getting plenty of sleep. So in a lot of ways, your productive day starts before you even wake up. Meaning, before you wake up, you want to have plenty of sleep so that you're energized and you're ready to take on the things you need to take on. I know for me, when I don't get enough sleep, I'm trying to get things done. I'm trying to do things. If I don't get enough sleep, then I'm not as productive and I can't think as well and I have to take a nap and oftentimes if you're at work, you can't take a nap. And sleep is just really important. So start with a good night's rest. First thing in the morning, getting the water. It's really important that we drink water at the very beginning of the day. It helps suppress the appetite. It helps hydrate you, and it just does a lot of really good things. Now, what I've been experimenting with is adding a little bit of sea salt to my water. Sea salt, inside the sodium, inside the sea salt, there's electrolytes, and they're a really good, powerful, natural way to get required minerals. Now, I'm saying sea salt. I'm not talking about the kind of salt that is in most processed foods. I'm not talking about the kind of salt I'm not talking about that white salt that's not really healthy, that's associated with heart disease and everything like that. I'm talking about a couple dashes of either Celtic sea salt, which I think for $5 you can get for less than $5 you can get a whole bag of it at most grocery stores, or Himalayan salt. That's the pink salt. So there's pink salt and then the blue. It looks like, ironically enough, it looks like the Breaking Bad blue crystals, but it's definitely not drugs or anything. It's just a sea salt. And to start out, what I did was I just put in a few dashes, just a few pinches of sea salt, and it had a huge effect on my energy levels. And just getting those minerals at the start of the day makes a big difference. So the first quick win I would recommend is getting some nice, fresh, hopefully purified water. If you're drinking tap water in your area and your tap water is safe, that's fine. You might want to consider having some really clean, fresh water. And I don't keep my water in the refrigerator. I've been told, and I think this is true, that cold water is not as cold water is hard to drink. It's kind of hard on the body a little bit in digestion. So, some people they'll drink cold water because it helps like burn calories. I guess I've heard that you can do that. But for the most part in the morning, I drink actually water that's just been sitting there overnight. For what I do personally is I actually have, this is how much water is important to me. I actually have water delivered, purified water delivered to me. And I got one of these pumps off Amazon.com. I think it was like $20 or $30. And I hand pump the water into my water, my Nalgene. And then I'll add I created a Sole. I think it's pronounced a Sole. And what that means is basically my salt water. I made this salt water, kind of a salt water mixture where I got a jar. I put tons of a large amount of Himalayan sea salt, and then I poured water over it until it completely, until it just basically all became one. And then I'll just put like one or two little teaspoons of 1 tablespoon into my 64 ounces of water. I drink a lot of water in the first thing in the morning. You want to be careful though. If you drink too much water, I've been experimenting with that, but because I'm drinking my water and because I'm having maybe a protein shake and all kinds of stuff, you got to be careful because especially if you're going to work, you don't want to be going to the bathroom every hour or anything like that. So what most people recommend is just a glass of water first thing in the morning. And if there's just probably of all the suggestions here, getting a great night's sleep and having a nice, refreshing glass of water. If you don't have any rituals built, that's probably one that's going to be solid. You can take that to the bank for the rest of your life. If you're doing that, that'll actually have a huge effect on the rest of your day. Huge effect. I wouldn't underestimate the power of getting a nice glass of, I just drink regular lukewarm water. Well, not lukewarm, just room temperature. A good breakfast. Now, this good breakfast might follow after some of these things. Actually, I'm going to put that'll probably go down in a bit here. Second, I would say, looking at the list here, would be meditation. So after having my glass of water, I like to do about 20 minutes of transcendental meditation. And what that does is, especially before my mind starts to get off by checking emails or looking around or thinking about stuff, what transcendental meditation does for me is it gets me grounded. It makes me kind of see a little bit deeper and get myself emotionally ready for the day ahead. So I'm not thinking too hard. It's developing my creative skills. There's countless meta-studies of the science of transcendental meditation online. The American Heart Association has now correlated good heart functioning with transcendental meditation. So it's one of those things that they're finding so many good benefits with it. I highly recommend transcendental meditation or some kind of mantra meditation. If transcendental meditation is too expensive because there is a fee when you first learn it. If that's too much and you want to just get started meditating, I would recommend mantra meditation. After my meditation, brushing the teeth. That can't be said enough. I don't know if there's people out there that actually don't brush their teeth. It's one of those socially awkward things, but my guess would be there might be people out there that actually don't brush their teeth in the morning. Brush your teeth, and flossing your teeth are two very important things. So that's what I do in the morning. Usually I floss in the evenings, but it depends on what's good for you. If you floss in the morning and the evening, that's really awesome. I usually just floss in the evenings because I don't want anything stuck in my teeth at night. But brushing your teeth in the morning is really important. Showering, I like to shower right after I brush my teeth. So going to shower, and then after that, at that point I'm starting to get kind of hungry. So after the shower, I like to have bananas. There's quite a debate about what you eat in the morning for breakfast. A lot of people are hardcore advocates of eating protein, getting eggs first thing in the morning for breakfast. And some people, the intermittent fasting crowd, will say to not eat anything until later in the afternoon, where you can just instead drink coffee with coconut oil, as well as some coconut oil and what's the other thing? I know people are already thinking about it right now. Coconut oil. I mean, I just know to put coconut oil. Oh, butter. You can also put grass-fed butter into your coffee in the morning. That's something, and then mix it all up. And a lot of people think a lot of people are hardcore about that for the intermittent fasting group, because that will keep you strong until later on in the afternoon, when you can have your afternoon meals. If that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. Like me personally, I've gone 8 hours without a meal. I think a little bit of protein with some carbs is good. I like to have a lot of different variety in the mornings, but typically you can't go wrong generally with a couple eggs, maybe one egg, to keep it safe. And this is by no means medical advice. This is just for entertainment purposes, as they say. But some things that I've found that are really good: banana and eggs, good things. So after that, showered, brush teeth. And these are all just some suggestions, by the way. These are different things I've experimented with starting my day that make me very, very happy. What I like to do, me personally, I have this gratitude journal, and I like to write down 3 things every day that I'm grateful for. There was an interesting TED Talk that came out a few years ago where it was a Harvard psychologist, I believe, or some kind of Harvard statistician, or an expert from Harvard who came out and said, basically, if you write down 3 things you're grateful for every single day, then it's going to have an effect on you that's going to make you more productive and basically better work with other people a lot better. The TED Talk was inspirational enough for me to believe it and to get started doing it. And I have been doing it. And I find it to be incredibly rewarding. It rewards you throughout the day. It's just a great way. Being grateful for 3 things. If writing it down is too hard at first, just saying, I'm grateful for this breakfast. I'm grateful for meditation. I haven't yet, because I've told people about this and they said, well, don't you run out of grateful things? I have not yet run out of things to be grateful for. I do repeat, but I repeat a lot less than I would have thought. I would have just said, well, I'm grateful for coffee. I'm grateful for coffee every morning. But there's so many things to be grateful for. You can be grateful for family. You can be grateful for the TV. You can be grateful for breathing. You can be grateful for the ability to see. You can be grateful for your car. I mean, it is just unbelievable. Only 3 is really a small amount, and the payoff is incredibly huge. Look up the TED Talk. I guess try Googling it, TED Talk, gratitude journal, something along those lines, and you'll find it. And then, okay, it's a good idea, I think. Really, I only do this about once a week, but this is a good thing to do just in general. Sometimes if you're in the writing mode, write down the things you want to accomplish that day. I don't do that at my place. When I'm at work, I'll start to do that, and I already have a calendar at work, and I have things that I already have planned. But if you're working from home, you can go ahead and get started on the things that you want to accomplish that day, or possibly the things you want to get accomplished in the week. That's just another tip. I'm just rapid firing out there tips, ideas, things that you can do to have a totally productive day. Okay. I got this idea from, there was a book, I think it's On Writing. I think it's called On Writing. Stephen King wrote a book about how he writes. And one of the ideas that I got that came from that is this idea of writing 1,000 words a day. And this is really for the creative types, maybe the bloggers. If you've got a book inside you and you just want to keep developing your writing craft over the months and years to come, if you just write 1,000 words a day, first thing in the day, then you're going to be so far along. Your writing skills, you're going to see them, I would say, stronger than any class you could go to. I was an English major, and I took a lot of classes. And honestly, there's nothing that can substitute day in, day out writing. And for several months, I had this goal. It's actually kind of a good goal to have if you're into writing, just to write 1,000 words every day. Now, it'll take you I think it took me probably half an hour to an hour to do that. So if you're trying to be productive in the morning, you don't have time for that. That's more of a goal for possibly writers or bloggers or people who are just trying to create things. If you're trying to write a book, if you're trying to do something like that, that's just an idea. And one application that I recommend that I used that was really good for this is called Scrivener. And what's really good about it is each day you can start, you have one file for whatever it is. And mine was just you can call it whatever, your journal, you can call it your book, your novel. And each one, chapter by chapter, each day you can start a new one. And then right at the bottom, it shows how many words you've written. And that was always cool for me because sometimes you just get carried away writing. You just be writing, and then before you know it, you'll get past that 1,000 words. You might want to start out the first couple weeks just doing maybe 500 words or maybe 100 words, because 1,000 words is a little bit harder. That's getting close to, that's arguably maybe a chapter in a book. And if you're having a tough time at first, I would say just sit down and just start writing, even if it's silly stuff. Because if it's anything like my experience with podcasting, my first podcast, the first 3 minutes was probably one of the most painful 3 minutes. And I went back and listened to it. I don't know if you could even hear the pain in my voice, but if you're writing, those first few sentences might be awkward. You might not have anything creative, but then something will start happening. And you'll get to the next 100 words, and then you'll just get into this flow, and then it becomes normal. And I think podcasting is very much like that, the same way, where you might start writing something, and then it'll go into something creative, and it's like a flower. The seed gets planted, and then it blooms, and it's something that you totally weren't expecting, but it just comes out of you from I don't even know where it comes from. It just comes from the mind, and it just produces itself. It's like a creative, it's just a beautiful thing. So I think, if you're looking for ideas of things to do in the morning, try for a month writing 500 words, writing 1,000 words. I said 1,000 words because, in a month you'll have 30,000 words. I think that's close to a novel, the average novel. You might have to look up what the average, I'll go ahead and look up, average words in average novel. Okay, the average book has 64,500 words. That's the average book. So if you're working on a book and you're writing 1,000 words a day, in about 2 months, you'll have completed your novel. That's one way to break it down. Now, that's the completely raw writing. It depends on if you're from the Ernest Hemingway school of writing, where every sentence is almost like poetry, where every word is looked at with a fine microscope, where you have to rewrite. You're essentially rewriting the same novel 100 times. That's maybe not going to be as effective. The kind of writing I'm talking about is just sitting down and writing. Just that raw writing to get all of that's in your head out into there. And that's a lot faster than that. So that's the other side. That's the more, what was the name of that other writer? Just kind of stream of consciousness. Tolstoy, I don't know. Stephen King, I think, in his book on writing was known pretty well. So I think he would do that, just kind of write and let things kind of flow. And then as the story starts to just write itself, you just come up, from what I've learned, if you have the location, and you already, just know the story almost writes itself. If you know the character, and the goal here is to develop your skills, and the best way to do that is to continually write. So how to have another way to have a productive day. This part is important because you want to try to ritualize something that makes your life better. That's the whole idea of this. Now, these have been a few tips that I've used, but I'm sure you can think about what are things that you can habitualize, something that you can do every single day, or maybe not every day. Like maybe if you're hooked on the American 5-day work week model, what you could do is just work 5 days a week, or 6 days a week if you're going hardcore. Me personally, I always suggest if you're doing just about anything, it's always good to take one day off, just so that you can prevent yourself from burning out. One day off a week, but it depends on how motivated you are to learn something. Some other things I was just thinking about is maybe learning a vocabulary word every day, or 10 vocabulary words if you're super motivated about that. Speaking of which, I like to do a word of the day on all my podcasts, and today this podcast is no different. So the word of the day for today is fiddlestick. Fiddlestick. Fiddlestick means anything, or fiddlestick means a bit. And here's fiddlestick used in a sentence. I don't care a fiddlestick for what they say. I don't care about anything for what they say. I don't care a fiddlestick for what they say. That's an interesting word. That seems very like cultural, like folky, fiddlestick, folksy. I don't care a fiddlestick for what you say. Anyway, yeah, so you can come up with words that make yourself better. Maybe if you're into music, if you're a musician and you want to practice guitar every day, 15 minutes a day of practice. I would say from what I've heard, just from learning, just from learning just about anything, probably half an hour to an hour every day you're going to get more value out of, instead of waiting till Saturday and then practicing for 4 hours. I think you get more out of practicing for just small chunks at a time. And with that, this was a little bit of a shorter podcast, and just wanted to get this out there really fast because I'm trying to get a feel for the kinds of things that people find valuable in these podcasts and how to have a productive day. That's a very important key thing, and it might be something to be talked about a lot. But I wanted to just quickly get this out there because it's a really important thing. So this is the TotallyHooked.net podcast. This is Frank Howard. Please subscribe on iTunes. We're trying to get into the new and noteworthy section. I'm trying to build this really hard. I'm just an independent podcaster, working in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm a nice, good guy, and please just subscribe if you're getting value out of this. It means a lot, and I hope everybody has a terrific day. Thank you. Bye.